myself. My name is Samoa Joe. I ain't asking for permission. I came to put a champion to sleep. You look at me when I'm talking to you, or we can straighten this out right now. Oh, Wendy!
Keep on talking.
Hey, do me a favor. Why don't you act like this is an AA meeting and you shut your mouth while I'm sharing with the group?
Samoa Joe is one of those guys who doesn't get enough respect put on him. When you think of TNA wrestling, everyone instantly thinks of AJ Styles. However, to me, Samoa Joe is just as important to the success of TNA as AJ Styles was. In 2005, Samoa Joe would have one of the most incredible years in pro wrestling and even go undefeated for 18 months. When Kurt Angle came into the company, they had enough faith in Joe that they instantly booked Joe versus Kurt Angle. That is how important Samoa Joe was to TNA wrestling. Kurt Angle would end up ending the undefeated streak at Genesis 2006. Joe would have nearly a 10-year run in TNA wrestling when he decided to leave in 2015. On May 20th, 2015, at NXT TakeOver Unstoppable, Joe made his NXT debut during the main event and stopped Kevin Owens from attacking Sami Zayn with a chair and had a stare down with Kevin Owens. NXT 2015 was red hot and Joe was coming in to stare down with Kevin Owens, and that was a wild sight. Joe had the towel and he looked like a complete badass on his debut. Samoa Joe would verse Kevin Owens on the June 17, 2015 episode of NXT TV. The match would go to a no contest that the refs would have to come and separate the two and pull them apart. They were building these two as they could not control their anger towards one another. It worked. You could protect both men, not have Kevin Owens lose the NXT title, and still make Samoa Joe look great. Joe would eventually team up with Finn Balor to win the first ever Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. They would beat Baron Corbin and Rhino in the finals at NXT TakeOver Respect. Joe would turn on Finn Balor later and become heel. This is something that suits Samoa Joe very well. At NXT TakeOver London, Joe would be unsuccessful in capturing the NXT Championship against Finn Balor. This match was great and goes down as one of Joe's best matches in the WWE. There would be another match at NXT TakeOver Dallas, but Joe would lose once again. On April 27, 2016, Samoa Joe would have another chance at the NXT Championship at a WWE NXT house show. Samoa Joe would surprisingly pick up the victory and win the NXT Championship from Finn Balor. Joe would have that title for an impressive 121 days until losing it to Shinsuke Nakamura at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 in 2016. The Nakamura-Joe match is a must-watch. It's a great showcase to why both of these men are fantastic. If you have the time, I would go out of your way to watch this entire match. Joe would finish up his feud with Nakamura and head to WWE Raw on January 30th, 2017. He would attack Seth Rollins from behind and align himself with Triple H, we thought. The following week on Raw, he defeated Roman Reigns in the main event after a distraction from Braun Strowman. Samoa Joe would sit down with Michael Cole where he stated that he wasn't aligning with Triple H. He was beating up people because he wanted to. Rollins would have a match with Triple H at WrestleMania, but he had unfinished business with Samoa Joe and would give Joe's first loss on the main roster at WWE Payback 2017. Even though Joe lost, he would find success at WWE Extreme Rules 2017. He would become #1 contender for the WWE Universal Championship. He won a fatal 4-way match that would set him on a collision course with Brock Lesnar. Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title would take place at Great Balls of Fire 2017. This match was a bit over 6 minutes long, but it was really a special sight. As Paul Heyman was introducing Brock Lesnar in the ring, Brock turned his back to Joe to show off the Universal title, and Joe came out of nowhere, knocked Brock out of the ring. He then threw him over to the guardrail and tossed him through an announce table with a Uranagi. Samoa Joe caught Brock Lesnar by surprise. Brock finally made it to the ring, and the match began. Joe controlled most of the match until Brock Lesnar was able to drive Joe into the turnbuckle and take Joe to Suplex City. Joe would block a third suplex attempt with a mule kick, and that would let Joe deliver the Uranagi. Joe would continue to try and put Brock in the coquina clutch, but Brock would escape and give another German suplex to Samoa Joe. Joe would reverse the F5 into the coquina clutch, but Brock Lesnar was able to counter that into an F5 and retain the WWE Universal title. This was such a great match and one of my favorite WWE matches that Joe had. I never expected Joe to get this much offense, let alone dominate 90% of the match. It was a really good showing for Samoa Joe. At SummerSlam 2017, Joe would challenge Lesnar for the WWE Universal title in a fatal 4-way match with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. Going into the pay-per-view, many had thought that Joe could win, as Brock Lesnar wouldn't have to take the pin. The stipulation of having Brock Lesnar lose the company if he lost the title further made people think that this outcome was possible. Even though Joe didn't win, this match was a tremendous battle of big hosses and was total non-stop action. There was a moment in the match where Joe locked in the coquina clutch, and it felt like it might be his moment to become Universal Champion. However, Lesnar recuperated, he delivered an F5 to keep the bout going. The end of the match saw Brock Lesnar beating Roman Reigns after an F5 to retain the championship. When Joe lost, many thought this was it for Joe in the WWE title picture. However, he would end up facing AJ Styles for the WWE Championship in the near future. On April 17th, Joe was traded to SmackDown in the 2018 Superstar Shakeup. At SummerSlam 2018, it was Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. Going into this, many people had high hopes for the match, given their history in TNA wrestling. However, this match was just alright. AJ Styles would get DQ'd after Samoa Joe got on the microphone and told AJ Styles' wife that Daddy was coming home. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe would have a rematch at Hell in a Cell 2018 for the WWE Championship. This match ended in controversy. Samoa Joe attempted to lock in the coquina clutch and force AJ Styles to submit, but AJ countered the move into a pinning combination. Joe contended that AJ Styles tapped out, but the referee counted to 3, thus ruling the match in the championship favor. AJ Styles retained the WWE Championship. Joe would get more chances at WWE Super Showdown and WWE Crown Jewel, but would ultimately never capture the WWE Championship. Joe would, however, capture the US title 2 times and even took it to WWE Monday Night Raw during the Superstar Shakeup in 2019. He lost the title to Ricochet after a 20-day reign. Joe would challenge Kofi Kingston twice for the WWE Championship, once at Extreme Rules and once in a triple threat at WWE Smackville. Joe would never win it. Joe would be in the King of the Ring 2019, but he wouldn't win the tournament. Joe had broken his thumb and was out for action for 3 months. During this time, Joe was used as a commentator for WWE Monday Night Raw. He goes on to get positive reviews, but ended up returning to wrestle. On December 23rd on Monday Night Raw, Joe was attacked by the AOP. The following week, Joe returned from injury, saving Kevin Owens from an attack by AOP and Seth Rollins. Joe would go on to enter the Royal Rumble 2020 at number 29, but get eliminated by Seth Rollins. On February 20th, 2020, it had been reported that Joe hit his head during a table break as they were filming a stunt for a commercial. He was not cleared for in-ring action. The injury, which was still being evaluated at the time, could keep Joe on the sidelines for a considerable amount of time. 4 days later, Joe was suspended for 30 days for violating WWE's wellness policy. Apparently, Joe just refused to take the test, which would result in him getting suspended. On April 27, 2020, Joe returned to television, replacing Jerry Lawler on Raw commentary. Joe would remain on the WWE Raw commentary team until April 12, 2021, when he was replaced by Corey Graves. Joe then made his last appearance with the WWE on commentary at WrestleMania 37. He was released on April 15, 2021, during the WWE Spring Cleaning. As I stated before, Samoa Joe was one of the biggest reasons that TNA Wrestling succeeded when it did, and Samoa Joe, between 2003 and 2009, was as good as anyone in the entire world. Joe was loyal to TNA Wrestling, as it really made him look like a badass for so long. However, as we all know, TNA did have its downfall, and they did misuse Joe many times. And that would probably be another video for another time. When Joe left TNA Wrestling and came to the WWE, it was 2015. WWE did the smart thing. They put him in NXT. Let him go out there and have great matches with a group of talent that could rival any roster in history. Some of those NXT TakeOver matches that Joe had still hold up to this day. When Joe came to the main roster, he did have a couple chances at the WWE Universal Championship and even looked really good doing so, but he was never able to capture it. He did also have a few chances at the WWE Championship against AJ Styles and Kofi Kingston, but again, he was unsuccessful. It then came down to injury after injury after injury that sidelined Joe from action, and WWE wanted to utilize him on commentary. Joe was a fine commentator, but everybody wanted to see him in the ring. Samoa Joe wanted to return to the ring, but he was not medically cleared to do so. Even up to his release, he wasn't medically cleared by WWE officials. Even though Samoa Joe is much older than he was in his prime, he's still someone that could be a believable WWE World Champion. He has intensity and can put on great matches with just about anybody. All you need to do is let him go out there and be a badass, and it works. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Joe now that he's a free man from the WWE. Will he be medically cleared to wrestle outside of WWE? And will he make an impact again? Or will he become All Elite? We're unsure at this time, but WWE could have done so much more with the Samoan Submission Machine.